Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting a like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now, today's first story comes from Dover Calais, who says, I, 25 male, proposed to my girlfriend, 24 female, of 4 years, but she said no because it wasn't a surprise. They said, I'll start by saying I love my girlfriend a lot, but she is definitely high maintenance. We've been talking about getting married for a couple of years now, but I wanted to wait until I knew a wedding. A wedding was something we could afford. I finally got a promotion and she found stable employment, so I went out and bought a ring. We went on a vacation last week. The whole trip was very romantic and I proposed to her on a beach, which I thought she would have wanted. Turns out she expected it all along because the trip was so romantic and she said no. She wants me to try again, but wants it to be a surprise this time. She also wants a photographer to be there to capture the moment. It was pretty fucking embarrassing when a few people came up to us to congratulate us and she was explaining why she said no. I'm not sure what to do. She wanted it to be a surprise but also wanted me to propose as soon as I felt ready to. We also talked about her ideal engagement and it's on a beach. Yes, seriously. In a forest or in a field. I can't imagine any possible scenario where I could surprise her at one of those locations. She is not the outdoorsy type, so it'd be unlikely she would be in any of those locations anyway. I explained my frustration to her and she just said, well, if you want to get married, you will find a way to make it work. It seems so bratty and immature, I'm not sure how to deal with her now. I'm still really pissed off about it. What should I do about this? Am I wrong to be pissed off? So initially there were some comments from people with OP responding to them. Panic Bread said, your girlfriend doesn't sound nearly mature enough to get married. Take this as a sign of your life to come and get out. OP says, I think you're right. I've been trying to justify it for her, but judging by the overwhelming response, I should probably break it off. Dobby Chief says, ask your good friends their truthful opinion on her. Make sure to let them know that they won't get backlash for saying something bad. They know better than us. Opie says, my friends can't stand her. DRH says, take the ring back to the jeweler. Does she want an engagement or does she want a marriage? I can totally see Bridezilla growing on her already. Yikes. Opie says, yeah, that's another thing. When we're talking about her dream proposal, she was showing me her Pinterest for a dream wedding, and it's full of stuff we won't ever be able to afford. I told her it's unlikely our wedding would be like that, but we could still make it nice, and she'd said she'd rather wait till we can afford her dream wedding. MM172 says, and by rather wait, I suspect she means nag you about either getting a better job or taking out a loan to pay for what she wants. Don't do this to yourself, man. Hoopy says, yeah. She told me I could start selling some of the furniture I make, which is something I do as a hobby that she wants me to turn into a second job. Yeah, she sounds like an absolute pain in the ass. And I'm not hating on having, a dream situation where you're getting proposed to. I imagine many people have that and I don't see anything wrong with that. But OP did think about it. He did think that she wanted it on a beach and went and did that and was making the whole trip very romantic, but then turned him down because it's not quite the way she wanted it. I mean, that would really piss me off if I was in OP's shoes. And then with the additional information that was coming forward in those comments, I think, yeah, can you imagine setting up the wedding with her? What an absolute bloody nightmare that's going to be. Run. I'm just going to add one more comment on before we go to the update. Commenter says, okay, as an older Redditor and a woman, I want you to think past that incredibly self-centered reaction to your proposal and think honestly about building a life together. I've been married for over 20 years to a mostly amazing guy and we have experienced some incredible highs but also some devastating lows. Would your girlfriend have your back in some of my situations? My husband made a fortune and lost a fortune. Would your SO still be with you if you went from a mansion to an apartment? I've wiped his mother's butt and been her caregiver during her Alzheimer's. Would your SO be willing to do the disgusting sacrifices? When my first child had surgery 3 times in 1 year, when he was only 3, I had to be the one to calm him down and hold him for anesthetics to work. Would your SO be strong enough to do the necessary stuff? but my husband got injured at work and couldn't bring in the money. I went back to full-time work and did overtime for bills. Would your SO support you? When his dad died, I organized a funeral around his wishes. Not common sense. Would your SO support you emotionally when you're devastated? A proposal is an invitation to a committed relationship. Marriage is more than a piece of paper. It is a formal commitment to each other and your life together as a team. She turned down your invitation for a surprise with a photographer. What will she do when life gets hard? So OP came in with her update and said, here's a link to my last post, but it got deleted. To summarize, I proposed to my girlfriend on a nice vacation and she rejected it because she knew it was coming and there wasn't a photographer. Thank you all for your comments and messages. Sorry I couldn't respond to most, but I read them all. I decided to try and talk about it with her one last time before throwing in the towel. I wasn't really expecting much, but I wanted to see if she'd see my side. She lives with me, so I wanted to end things on a good note. She didn't understand at all. She was still saying I needed to work for it, and she wasn't taking me seriously, so I broke up with her. Then she told me she accepts my proposal, and we're just going through a rough patch, but we will work it out. She was really trying to get me to change my mind and was promising me she would be better to me. She completely ignored me every time I told her we're breaking up, and was always yelling over me about how we're going to work things out now that we're engaged. And eventually, I just got tired and went to sleep, thinking it was perfectly clear that we're over. I woke up Saturday to a whole bunch of messages. She found the ring and took a pic with it on announcing our engagement and tagged me in it on Facebook. We got into another huge fight and eventually I just called her parents and told them to come pick up all her shit or it's going to the dump as soon as she leaves. They were surprisingly understanding. Her dad seemed really embarrassed by her, but they were a huge help. I know it's illegal to do that and I was supposed to actually evict her, but she got seriously violent and I didn't want her in my house anymore. She smashed my iPad and knocked my PlayStation off the TV stand, and both are completely broken. So I didn't want to wait around and see what else she would do. She wouldn't even give me the ring back. Her dad had to guilt her into it. It was pretty pathetic. So that's the end of us. Really sucks I wasted the last 4 years with her, but I guess it was better to get out now. It's nice that I can hang out with all my friends again. A girl I'm friends with asked me out on a date, so that's what I'm doing tomorrow. I'm actually pretty nervous. I know it's way too early, but even if it doesn't work out, it should be fun to start dating again. Someone commented on the back of that with like dating the next day, and the commenter said, too soon, bro. Opie said she knows the entire situation. It's not serious. She told me years ago she had a crush on me, but we're good friends now. Who knows what will happen? Cat Juggler says, perhaps this is why your crazy ex did not like your girlfriends. Opie says, yeah, that's what started it. I don't blame my girlfriend for that. I shut my friend down and then told my girlfriend about it because I didn't want to keep things from her. I don't think I did anything wrong in that situation. But after that, she didn't want me talking to any women. I'm not talking about the date or anything. I think OP's doing the right thing with not being with this person anymore. And I think there was huge signs when OP's friend group, not just one person, but the group didn't like her. And from the end of the post, it sounded like OP was actually not allowed to hang around with them, which is, red flags all over. And the fact that she turned violent, she was destroying stuff. It could have been absolutely horrific, if you did continue the relationship with her. Definitely dodged a bullet in that situation, in my opinion. But what do you guys make of this one? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Our next story comes from the True Off My Chest subreddit from Adventurers Aside 600 and says, my fiance's best friend is making my life a living hell. My fiance has the biggest heart. Would literally give you the shirt, pants and hat off his body if you ask for it. He's a recovering people pleaser and I get it because I also used to be a people pleaser. We've been together for 5+ years. A few months ago I started picking up on his best friend making some not so nice comments towards me. I'm trying to be vague, but let's just say this friend is the type to read who in the room would be most affected by being picked on. And then he picks and picks and picks on them until they can't take it anymore. Nobody ever holds him accountable for this, and unfortunately, I've somehow become his favorite target. I tried to put up with these comments, but it started getting really elaborate. A friend would make up lies about me saying things I never said. He once called me in front of our friends, my fiance included, just to yell, "You're a bad friend," into the phone, and then hang up. There's so much to it that I can't share because I'm trying to be somewhat anonymous. It started having an effect on me and my mental health, and I ended up having a full breakdown where I told my fiancé how much this was all starting to hurt me. The first time I broke down over this, he said he would talk to his friend about teasing and messing with me less. He then told me his friend was sorry and that he'd keep an ear out for any other comments, and he'd jump to my defense if it happened again. A few weeks later, I had a second breakdown over all this. The situation itself is hitting a very specific childhood trauma/trigger for me, and he admitted that his friend didn't actually apologize. He actually said he was sorry I was too sensitive to understand his humor. At that point, I told my fiancé my friendship with this person is over and I want zero contact from here on out, even if it means I have to miss out on events and parties that I'd otherwise love to go to. He agreed with me that all of this is being done with the intention to get a rise out of me, and that even if we tried to get through to this friend, he's so diabolical that we could never fully trust him to not treat me at least a little bit shitty. My fiancé kept asking if it meant he had to quit the project they're working on. I told him I would never tell him he had to because I know how much it means to him. But in all honesty, the fact that this person is treating me so poorly that I'm having physical stress reactions isn't enough for him to want to cut this person off does hurt a lot. The fact that it isn't a deal breaker for him is probably always going to sting a little. He's not confrontational at all, and I always knew that. But it's not about confrontation, it's about standing in my corner. I can't spend the rest of my life with someone who isn't in my corner. This friend is getting married to my best friend in a few months, and we're supposed to be in the wedding, but I really have no clue how. I get a literal knot in my stomach anytime his name is even mentioned now. I've seen this friend one time since all of this came to a head, and he was so over the top nice to me that it came off as cocky. I had a second breakdown a few days afterwards because I realized I'm possibly going to spend the rest of my life on edge and on guard anytime this person is even somewhat in my vicinity, even if they aren't actively fucking with me. I don't know how to come to terms with the fact that my fiancé was willing to lie to me on his shitty friend's behalf, but he's not willing to stand in my corner against him. I think it always hurt. The guy was supposed to be the best man in our wedding, and as a result, we haven't been talking much about our wedding plans. I think if he's still planning on his friend being in our wedding, I may have to call it off for my own sanity. And that sucks so bad. This is fucking eating me alive. I love my fiancé so much. I love his big heart and the way he loves with all of it. But he loves some truly wretched people, and I don't know if he'll enforce any boundaries with those people before the lack of boundaries become too much for me to handle. I'm just hurt and hurting, and I just want whatever outcome to play out so I can stop feeling so guilty and awful all the time. There's non-confrontational, which I do understand some people are, and then there's sitting there and watching your fiancé get bullied by your best friend and still wanting to include him in your wedding. Holy shit. And the fact that he lied about this arsehole apologizing as well, not standing up for you against the blatant bullying. And the bullying is to the point that your mental health has taken such a dive that you're having panic attacks over it. And your fiancé seems to stand there and still want to go to see this guy. Now, I'm definitely not a violent person. I'm a lover, not a fighter. The post has riled me up so much for OP that I want to shove my foot up that best friend's ass. What an arsehole. OP comes in a month later and says, never thought I'd actually update this account out of sheer fucking embarrassment, but I wanted to share for those of you who encouraged me to put myself first. I want you all to know my partner absolutely came through and protected me in this. We spent all this time since my last post until last week communicating and trying to find a resolution, and walking through how it got this bad. He took a lot of accountability for that. This is not a case of me giving in. He understands fully that this only got so bad because it's never been handled correctly, and he had a major hand in that. There was so many more layers to this than a Reddit post could ever have conveyed. The bottom line is we're closer than ever, and after a lot of talking, we decided on my partner sending a firm but not unkind message to his friend, explaining the behaviors, explaining that they were hurting his partner and that it needed to stop. He asked to write up the first draft, and we could go over it together to try and perfect it. Reddit, please know the first draft my partner wrote was so spot on what I needed to read that it instantly shifted us into a us versus the problem mode, when we've been stuck butting heads for weeks. He laid everything out so clearly and in ways that we hadn't discussed. so I know it came from him. We had to tone down a lot of the big emotions. We really truly gave the message its best shot to address the situation without being hostile. We knew the response would be bad no matter what, but I don't think anything could have fucking prepared us. This man went full scorched earth and blew up everything almost immediately. He insulted my partner. He told him these events didn't happen the way I claim they do. He demanded they meet up alone with a mediator. He even threatened to reach out to my partner's parents to fill them in, which is probably the moment we stopped taking his responses seriously. All of us are almost in our 30s. If once was enough, he threatened it twice. We actually had to call them and warn them that he'd be showing up at their place later this week and not to open the door. There's still a good chance he'll attempt it. We stayed respectful throughout all of this, which I feel good about. We didn't stoop to his level. We didn't insult anyone. We asked for basic human respect, and somehow it blew up spectacularly. In the end, we both received a massive wall of text from my now ex-best friend, fully backing up her man and telling her side of the story, which is so insanely far off from what actually happened that all I can do is laugh. We've been shifting from crying to being dumbstruck to straight up laughing because of the absurdity. I went into this thinking she was brainwashed, but it turns out I was wrong. They're a perfect match, and I wish them all the best. I'm sending one last message setting the record straight, which my partner and I decided together was the best approach apart from just ghosting. Before moving on from this entirely, I'm going to make it very clear this is done. Zero contact indefinitely, and I will never look back. My partner and I both deserve way better friends, and we both see that clearly now. I'm so fucking glad I learned my friend's true colors before we dropped $800 on a hotel for their wedding. Thank you to everyone who was kind. Not only did I put myself first in the end, but my partner did too. We're going to take this week in stride and process it all, grieve the friendships we once thought we were forever, and at the end of the week, we have a conveniently timed vacation to my partner's family cottage. I think we're going to come out of this stronger because we already feel it. Again, thank you to those of you who had something productive to say, and I've made my peace with all the rest. I guess if the guy does something else outlandish, maybe I'll update, but for now, this chapter is closed, and I'm so ready for it to start collecting dust. It's not the end, my friends. Because 2 months later, OP comes in with the latest update and says, "Hey all, told myself I wouldn't update again, but there's been a pretty massive development. Not sure if anyone is really that invested in this shit show, but it's actually helped me to type it out first a couple of times, so maybe I'll feel a bit better if I do it again. Sorry in advance for how disgustingly long this is going to be. Lol." A few weeks ago, the arsehole showed his entire hand. He sent my partner a message at 11 AM on a Monday, and it is the most unhinged shit I've ever read. I'll sum it up for you. The arsehole said he believed my partner is in an abusive relationship, and he should leave me for his own happiness. He claimed he has evidence to support this. He admitted this was the big message he would have given had they met in person in the very beginning. He also told him he was worried sending the message would make things even worse for my partner if I saw it. He said I am someone he can never forgive, and he will never want to associate with ever again. He ended it by saying he hopes he leaves me so my partner can apologize for breaking up the band. Yes, it was a band, and they can start to repair their friendship. Obviously, a whole lot to digest. I know you all don't know me, but I'm obviously not abusing my partner. I shouldn't even have to clarify that, but I will anyways. This guy is 100% excommunicated from our lives indefinitely. Not that he already wasn't at that point. In light of this new info, I'd like to share some of the things the arsehole has done over the past year or so that made me realize he was fucking with me. But I didn't clock it at the time because, much like some of you, I thought I was just being sensitive. My partner and I joined some pals, including arsehole, to play a game together online. Lethal Company if you're familiar. I have many hours in the game and I know the monsters quite well, so I was pretty confused when I was slaughtered by a bracken 3 game days in a row, almost immediately upon entering the facility and splitting from the group. I mentioned at one point that I'd be having a lot more fun if I wasn't dying so quickly every time, and the arsehole mockingly said it must be a skill issue. After a few more deaths, this time with me at least, getting to explore a bit before getting my neck snapped, I asked if anyone had the Control Company mod installed, which allows the server host to play as the monsters. Suddenly the arsehole had to go, and the lobby was conveniently disbanded. I never brought my suspicions up to anyone because I knew it would be my word against his and I had no solid proof, so I wasn't positive. But when I finally mentioned it to my partner a couple of weeks after that text was sent, he told me he remembers that arsehole staying on the ship and secretly going AFK multiple times in the game, which lines up pretty perfectly with my in-game deaths. Damn, I wanted to play that game, I never got into it though. When I said the arsehole was being too nice, the time we saw him after my partner called him out about his comments affecting me, I don't think I explained it right. My partner and I were sitting at a table at a local show and the arsehole sat next to me. Not my partner. I wouldn't stop touching my arm and asking me if I was enjoying the show. Multiple times he would just stare at me and grin as wide as he could. If I had just been told something, I didn't hurt my friend's partner. I don't think I'd be all over them the way this guy was to me. Hell, if it were me, I'd at least throw a sorry about the other night their way. It felt like he was gloating that he got away with it. It was comically over the top and made me and my partner very uncomfortable. We talked on the drive home and we both felt the same about it. I was hanging out with my friend at her place and the arsehole was there, so we all decided to head to my place and hang out with my partner as a foursome. Right before we left, the arsehole asked if I knew our mutual friend's big secret. I did not. I also am not very close with his friend. My friend already knew and told him they should just tell me because I wouldn't be that invested. But arsehole told my partner didn't know yet and they couldn't tell me until we all got to my place and told him. He kept going on about how big the secret was and insisted that I'd freak out once I knew. He made a comment about how we were taking different cars and there was a chance my friend would just tell me on the way. So he looked her dead in the face and told her that he'd be genuinely upset with her if she told me before he told my partner. We respected that. When we got to my place, it was obvious my partner already knew. The big secret was simply that our friend was dating someone. I found out later that the arsehole had called my partner the minute he got into his car and told him that both me and my friend didn't know and they should put on a big show of telling both of us together. My partner had known for weeks and the friend group had openly discussed it a few times and it hadn't come up with me because, as I said, I'm not very close with his friend. I got baited. Truly exhausting behavior. My partner had no idea what happened until I told him about the conversation at arsehole's place and my friend didn't say a word in my defense. I typed out exactly why this was ridiculous once all this came to a head and they both refused to even acknowledge it. I dyed my hair blue. My first outing with a new hair was with the whole group. I went all out on my makeup and outfit and was pretty stoked on it. I'm not exaggerating in the slightest when I say the arsehole made 20 plus jokes about my hair in the span of about 15 minutes. It was pretty much every time he interacted with me, which he seemed to go out of his way to do specifically so he could make jokes about my hair. If you've ever had blue hair, then you've probably heard most of the jokes he was making. I laughed along for the first few. I can definitely handle banter as that's a huge part of almost all of my friendships, but after about 20 jokes I finally said it was getting old and asked if he had anything nice to say. He responded by making another 5 jokes with a big shit-eating grin on his face and implied I was too sensitive. There truly was no switch off with the guy. Anyways, just wanted you all to know I'm not crazy. The arsehole has literally been trying to drive me mad at least for a year, and it almost worked. My partner and I have had many conversations about all of this, and I know a lot of people had a lot to say about him, but please know, this was eating both of us alive. He wanted to make things work so badly. He wanted to at least try salvage their 20 plus year friendship. But he understands now that was never possible. And he knows neither of us deserve to be treated the way the arsehole treated us. This was never just about me. If he was a good friend to my partner, maybe things would have been different and we could have tried harder to get through to him. But this is just who he is at his core. He's known for being a prick for no reason and lying about it, and there's no space in either of our lives for that. Anyways, I doubt the arsehole can top that message, so this is the last update I give. My partner and I are coming out of this way stronger. The arsehole has completely brainwashed my friend and I've made my peace with it. So she can have him, lol. Godspeed to the both of them. Thanks to all who showed understanding. Hopefully this is all going to be behind us very soon, once the dust fully settles. And that was OP's last update on the matter, but now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.